morning everybody. I have told you about the one component systems, and in the one component systems I have told you about the water system, carbon dioxide system and the sulfur system. Today I will tell you about the two component systems. So as we can infer from the definition only that the two component systems will consist of two components will be present in that system, means each phase will have at least two components in that system. So as we all know that the Gibbs phase rule is given by F is equal to C minus P plus 2, where C is the number of components, P is the number of phases. So when we calculate the degree of freedom F, that can be calculated from this Gibbs phase rule equation. Now the situation is that we are having two component systems. So when two component systems are present in a system, then F will be equal to 2 minus P plus 2. This will come out to be 4 minus P. So under these conditions, when F is equal to 4 minus P, now let us see how the degree of freedom will change with the number of phases. Now suppose there are three phases present. When P is equal to 3, then F will be equal to how much? Sorry, let us take P is equal to 4. The maximum number of phases which can be possible here. Let us take P is equal to 4. 4 phases are present in the system. Then F will be equal to how much? 4 minus 4, and this will come out to be 0. Means the system will be invariant when 4 phases coexist together in a two component system. Now let us see if three phases are present. When three phases are present, then the value of F will be 4 minus 3 is equal to 1. This means that the degree of freedom will be 1, and we need to fix only one variable to define that system completely when three phases are present in it. Now suppose two phases are present, then the value of F will be how much? 4 minus 2 is equal to 2. This means we need to fix two variables to define that system, and the system is said to be bivariate. Now suppose a single phase is present, then F will be equal to how much? 4 minus 1, and this comes out to be. This means we have to fix at least three variables to define that system completely. Now as we all know that the variables are given by the temperature, pressure and the concentration. These are the three variables when we study the phase equilibrium. This means that we have to fix the temperature, the pressure and the concentration. So this means we have to make a three-dimensional phase diagram in order to study such type of systems. And it is very difficult to depict a three-model diagram, a 3D diagram on a plain paper. So what we do is that we keep one of the variable as constant. Suppose we keep temperature as constant, then we will draw a phase diagram with pressure and the concentration, taking pressure and concentration into consideration, and we keep the temperature as constant. We will take the pressure into consideration and the concentration into consideration, and we keep the temperature as constant. Such diagrams are known as isothermals. These are known as isothermals. We have taken one variable as constant. Why? Because it is difficult to depict this phase diagram on a plain paper. It is not possible to depict and understand that diagram when we are taking all the three variables in consideration at a time. So what we do is that we take one variable as constant and we plot a phase diagram with the rest of the variables. Here we have taken the temperature as constant and we are plotting the pressure and the concentration axis. What we get is an isothermal. This diagram is the isothermal diagram. Now the another thing is that we can take the pressure, we can take the temperature and the concentration as the y-axis and concentration as the x-axis. In such diagrams, we are keeping pressure as constant. And when pressure is constant, then these diagrams are known as isobaric diagrams. Isobaric diagrams. Steady under, these are the phase diagrams, steady under isobaric conditions. Now, one more combination can be there of the pressure, of the temperature and the pressure, keeping concentration as constant. We can study the pressure and the temperature, and here we will take concentration as constant. Concentration is constant, and such diagrams are known as isochemical diagrams. In this way, we can study the two component systems which involve either the solid or the liquid equilibria or the solid or the gas equilibria. We can see that we can calculate the degree of freedom when two components are present. When two components are present, then F comes out to be 4 minus P, and the various arrangements can be when the number of phases are 4, means the maximum number of phases that can exist are 4, because then F comes out to be non-variant, means the system is non-variant and F comes out to be 0. When P is equal to 3, the number of phases are 3, then F will be univariate, the system will be univariate and F will be 1. When P is equal to 2 means the number of phases are 2, then the value of F comes out to be 2, means the system is bivariate, and when P is equal to 1, then value of F will come out to be 3, means the system is trivariate. And since it is not possible to make a 3D diagram on a paper and to understand it, the 3 diagram, because then we will have to take into consideration the x-axis, the y-axis and the z-axis. So it is not possible to make that diagram on a plain paper and to study it. So what we do is that we take one variable as constant and then we construct the phase diagram. When we are taking the temperature as constant, then it is known as an isothermal phase diagram. When we are taking pressure as constant, then we say that we are studying under isobaric conditions. And when we take the concentration as constant, then we are studying under isobaric conditions. Now these phase diagrams of the two component system, they can consist of various equilibria can be there, like there can be the solid and the liquid equilibria can be there. There can be liquid and liquid equilibria, there can be solid and the gaseous equilibria. Moreover, there can be solid and the liquid and the solid, liquid and the vapor equilibria can also be there. So of the various equilibria involving two component systems, the solid liquid equilibria are of great importance. The solid liquid equilibria are of great importance, and they find application mainly with the alloy formation and with crystallization of materials. So mainly we will study here the two component systems which involve the solid liquid phases. Moreover, I have to tell you here about the condensed phase rule equation also, which we call as the reduced phase rule equation. When we take one of the variable as constant, now if we see this phase rule equation, we are taking one of the variable as constant. There are two variables. Earlier I have told you in the derivation of this phase rule equation that these are the two variables which we take into consideration. So when we are taking one of the variable as constant, this means that the number of variables which are there have been reduced by 1. So the new phase rule equation is given by F dash is equal to C minus P plus 1. This equation is known as the reduced phase rule equation, and the system is known as the condensed system. So whenever we are studying two component systems, we will study it under the condensed systems, and the phase rule equation is the reduced phase rule equation given by F dash is equal to C minus P plus 1. since one of the variable we are taking as constant. Now I will tell you about the two component systems containing the solid liquid equilibrium. So when we are studying the solid liquid equilibria and the two component systems, then the solid liquid equilibria are of utmost importance because of their connection with the alloy formation and the crystallization of materials. So when we study the two component systems containing solid liquid and the liquid phases, then in such cases the liquid phase, it comprises of the homogeneous solution of components, which when cooled may deposit one or more of the solid phases. So these two types, two component systems, these can be of the following two types. Here I have written you for easy understanding. Type A and type B. In the type A, we have that there are these two components which are present in that equilibrium. They do not react with each other. They will not react with each other, but will simply mix to form a solution. Like we have the PI and the water system, where the PI and water will mix and they will form a eutectic mixture. This is another term which I will explain to you later on. And another is the lead silver system. Moreover, there is a bismuth cadmium system also which is in your course. I will tell you all about them later on when I will deal with the system. So in this type A, we have the eutectic mixtures. Another type is the type B. Here the two components, they react with each other, resulting into formation of a compound. So compound is formed in these type 2 solid liquid equilibria. Compound is formed, but again these can be divided into two types. One is which has the congruent melting point and another which has the incongruent melting point. Now what is the congruent melting point? As we have seen that the two components, they will react with each other, resulting into formation of a compound. This means a compound is formed and it is stable up to its melting point. And when it is melted, when the temperature is increased and this compound melts, it will form a liquid form, and the composition of this liquid form will be the same as that of the solid form. Then we will say that compound which is formed is having a congruent melting point. Now let's come to the other type, which is the compound having the incongruent melting point. The example, first of all, the example of this congruent melting point system are the zinc magnesium system, in which a compound Mg2 is formed, and in the form of hydrate system we have the ferric fluoride and water system. I have taken these two systems because they are in your syllabus also. Now come over to the incongruent melting point, means the compound those which result into formation of a compound with incongruent melting point. So in this type, the compound formed does not remain stable up to its melting point, and when it is heated, it decomposes before its melting point to give a new solid phase and a solution which has a composition different from that of the solid phase. Okay, so when this happens, the compound is said to undergo a transition or a peritectic reaction, and the compound is said to have an incongruent melting point. The typical examples of this is the sodium chloride and the water system, and the sodium sulfate and the water system. So this is all about the two component systems. Let me summarize once again. When we are studying the two component systems, then the degree of freedom can be 3. That when the degree of freedom is 3, then we cannot depict it on a plain paper. So what we do, we keep one of the variable as constant, and now what we follow is known as the condensed system and a reduced phase rule equation, which is given by f dash is equal to c minus p plus 1 instead of f is equal to c minus p plus 2. So that is the main concept to be remembered when we are studying a two component system. Moreover, when we are studying a solid liquid equilibrium, the effect of pressure on such a system is very low. Means that pressure does not change very much with the temperature when we are studying the solid liquid equilibrium. So we keep the pressure variable as constant. The vapor phase is usually ignored in such a systems. So the effect of pressure is is negligible almost. So what we have is a condensed system, and we follow the reduced phasor equation in all these equilibria. So this was all about the two component system. Thank you very much.